We're back with episode 4 of the J Morton podcast. I just want to say a massive thanks for all the feedback so far. It's always good to hear of your successes and how my book Soldier has had an impact on those. Today I'm going to be joined by our very special guest. He's an explorer, a TV presenter, a soon-to-be author, and an all-round man of the world, Aldo Kane, who can definitely talk about today's subject of danger, with plenty of experience from his own life adventures. But before we get into it, a big shout out, as always, goes to our sponsors, Harley-Davidson. I've had an exciting week with Harley this week, as I've had the privilege of being one of the first people in the UK to try out their new adventure motorcycle, the Pan America. We spent a day in Wales riding on and off-road with guidance from British Dakar rider Mick Extance. You can see what we got up to on my socials and find out more about the bike at harleydavidson.com/adventure. But now, let's get into the podcast and welcome Mr. Aldo Kane.
Aldo Kane, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Sorry about the delay. Do you like my artwork? I'm currently in quarantine out in the Azores, mate.
Spain.
It's
Sounds tropical. I'm going to show my lack of geography skills here.
It's Portuguese. It's a Portuguese settlement, which is right slap bang in the middle of the Atlantic.
So it's an island.
Yeah. So the Azores are like a collection of islands, which are I'm not sure how far off the coast of Portugal, but they're like, when you look at the map between like if you look between Portugal and South America, sort of thing, they're like right in the middle. Are you
getting typically British question, but are you getting better weather than we are right now?
I just said to Anna that she was asking what the weather was like, and I was like, it's pretty much like being up in Scotland. It's 4 seasons in one day here.
No!
Just because you're like it's a volcanic, mountainous sort of lump in the middle of the ocean, so it gets like it's being smashed by the sea on all sides, and it gets the sun. Obviously, we're in tropical climates, so. It's like being on the Cairngorm Plateau half the time.
That's no good, mate. That's no good. What are you doing out there, Aldo?
I'm working on a project called Ocean X, which is it's a big Nat Geo, BBC Studios, James Cameron sort of collab with the Ocean Explorer, which is a big ocean-going scientific research vessel. Which is called Ocean X. So the film's called Ocean Explorers for Nat Geo. And basically we head out into the ocean. This is the second mission. And we spend 2 months just basically using and utilizing all the assets on board the ship. So we've got 2 submarines. I can see it's just, I'm in quarantine now for another 6 days, but I can see the boat just over there. It's about 400 meters away. Freedom.
Is it free or not freedom?
Oh, not freedom. Yeah, right. There's freedom between here and getting on the boat.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, it's a massive sort of set piece about the state of the oceans, and I guess it's a sort of call to arms to the younger generation who might watch it and be inspired about conservation, but also about making science available for everyone, because it's for a long time been out of reaches of people like me. There was no way that I would have ever imagined that I'd be on this ship. I'm sharing the ship with some seriously huge brains, best in their field at oceanography and marine biology and everything that goes with it. But the plan is that to make it accessible, to inspire the next generation of explorers, scientists, adventurists, just to get out there and start checking out the planet.
Yeah, it's crazy how we were brought up as kids, and I know the internet wasn't a thing, like education on TV wasn't that great. Our school education probably wasn't, or maybe wasn't as good as what it is now. But in terms of the earth and the world, and even I think of, I didn't get loads at Christmas, but all those toys that parents buy their kids at Christmas and birthdays that are made of plastic, they're pretty much single-use plastic because most of them break after 3 weeks of a child throwing it around. But you had no education on exactly what all that stuff, like how bad all that stuff was for the environment and the oceans.
Yeah, it's I'm a conservationist, I suppose, by like a sort of sidestep into it from the job that I do, traveling the world, and some might say it's part of the problem, which is we have to be so much more aware of our like footprint now, and I think you're right to say that, I think we are the first generation that's ever been aware of what we're actually like, what happens, as a result of the thing that we've bought or the thing that we've made or the thing that we've done. The generations before us, you kind of didn't really think about it. So I think, I, and kids sort of, or my kid, I've just had a kid, I think we'll be the ones that are living in this time when the things that we've been doing for the last X amount of 100 years are actually having an effect. And it's hard, with the amount of travel that I do, it's hard to ignore it. I did a lot of expeditions as you have, you go to these sort of far off places and you speak to people, and, the fishing's different, or non-existent because there's now mercury in the rivers from illegal gold mining, or there's just, the rains are at a different time of year, the rivers are low, there's no rivers, there's too much water, and you kind of get to see it, and then you kind of get to think, actually, shit, I need to be, at least try and change some habits. It's a massive subject, isn't it? And I could get
massive subject,
get shot down in lots of ways for the travel that we do. But for example,
it's almost necessary travel though, because you're finding out these discoveries that are essentially going to change people's habits back in their own countries, whether it's reduced travel, whether it's, single-use plastics, whatever it is, recycling. You're the guys that are at the front of this, finding that research out to feed it back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you see it like that, it's then, you kind of think when you go to a shop and, when you order something online and it comes wrapped in a plastic bag, and you just think, like it never used to be 50 years ago. It didn't used to be wrapped in a plastic bag. And half the time you've got something wrapped in a plastic bag and then wrapped in another plastic bag. And it's, there's no consideration. But I mean, not getting on a rant about sort of conservation, but
I like what Africa did. I think definitely Kenya
Rwanda
banned plastic bags.
Yeah, I've travelled through Rwanda 3 or 4 times, and it utterly blows my mind. It's a country that's had a huge amount of its own problems over the years. But certainly with regards to plastic bags, you can't even fly into the country with a plastic bag in your kit. Your kit gets checked for plastic bags. So there is no
That's
plastic.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. That almost...
There's like a separate security part where you go through, get checked for guns, explosives, all that kind of stuff, and then you go through the plastic bag one.
But I mean, it is equally as dangerous for the planet as all the rest of it. But I mean, they pretty much banned it overnight, and it's it's one of those things that like another thing there. They last Saturday of every month in Rwanda, everyone comes out and cleans up their street, their borough, their sort of neighborhood sort of thing. So, but anyway, I mean, it's you just think in the UK you could seriously ban plastic bags overnight. You could ban it, but there's just too much politics in the way.
Yeah, like I know we're off on the segue of environmentalism at the minute, but I live out in the countryside, and I'll go and do like a walk in the morning, and like even just up here, right, because all the rubbish that's thrown out into the countryside here is off the road. So it's people that are driving down, winding the window down and lobbing their rubbish out. And I've noticed, right, that it's the same rubbish that gets lobbed out in any countryside setting. It's always like cigarette packets, cans of pop, like Fanta, Coke, all that kind of stuff. It's crisp packets, it's chocolate bar packets. It's basically everything that's bad for you gets thrown out. You never find, right? You never find like an organic peanut butter jar.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a massive correlation, right, between people looking after themselves and people looking after the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. I like with people throwing stuff out the car. Like I'll have a pop. If I'm driving and I see someone doing it, then I'll carefully pull up next to them and have a pop at them about it. You know, it's basics, man. It's just like take it and put it in the bin. I was up.
It's that thing, right? It's like you put it on the ground, right? You're expecting someone else to clean up your shit. That's like a metaphor in life.
Yeah, I used to work in when I left the Marines. I worked in a school for a few years doing this thing called Skill Force, and it was like you used to work with the kids that were borderline about to be kicked out for not specifically because they were bad, but they didn't like fit the system. And it was all military people, and we chat to them about why they'd throw litter away, and it genuinely didn't cross their mind. They just thought that someone else would pick it up. So it's not necessarily like, you know, people are thinking, can't wait for someone to pick this up. It's just like that person's got a job to do that. But I was out with Anna on the Downs up in Bristol, and it was like when the first lockdown ended, and there was just shit everywhere. And we just finished eating a pizza, and we were like, should we try it and see what it's like just to get up and leave 2 bottles of beer and like the pizza wrappers in. It's mega Chad, but we were like, right, let's do it. Right, let's get 1, 2, 3 up, and then just start walking away. And you're like, I can't do it. How can anyone like do it and not? But they must obviously not think about it. It's just like a lack of education, probably.
I think it's a massive lack of education. I don't know. It's just a lack of, I don't know, like having that lack of respect for the earth. It's the same down here on the beach in the summer. Especially last year, because everyone comes down to Bournemouth and piles onto the beach, and everyone left, and it was shocking, right? You expect a few bags, you expect a few, you know, beer bottles, beer cans, whatever to be left over, but you were literally right in every square meter or every square 2 meters there was a bag. So you know they're taking the time, right, to finish in, whether it was a throwaway barbecue, cans of beer or whatever. They put it into a bag, sealed the bag up, but left the bag.
Yeah, I know. I do it. Like I'm mega bad for it. Like when I see people doing it, I'll just have a go at them and just say, "Who's picking your shit up for you?"
Yeah,
I kind of have to like not get in a scrap over litter now, like an actual fist fight. But
doing time for having a go at litter dropper,
litter abuse. Yeah, but all good. So that's what we're doing. We're out. We're just about to board the ship in about 4 days' time, and then we'll be away for 6 weeks, back for 3 or 4, and then away for another 6, and then that's it in the bag, sort of thing.
Are you going down in the vessel, in the submarine?
Yeah. Have you been in one before?
Nah. I mean, I've been in like a big military,
sub.
Nothing like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like I'd never been in one until that last job there. So on the ship, on the Ocean Explorer, the sub team there is run by a guy called Buck, and they're all nearly all ex-British Naval sub rescue guys. So they're like mega qualled up, and just, you know, to be in the sub with them is epic. And you kind of like, you know, when you're diving or you're skydiving, right, you're completely in control of all your systems, right? Your life support system is in your hands. You just know when to pull, you know, your reserve drills, or like you're diving on your rebreathe or whatever, you know, like the systems that you go through. But when you're in a sub, you literally, you know, you're a passenger, and it's quite an eerie feeling. They're made of acrylic, I think it is. Like it's a 2-piece acrylic dome that's put together, and then everything else is bolted on round about it. And they go down to about 1,000 meters. So wow. It's
How
And
long does
I
it
mean,
take to get down to 1,000 meters?
I think they're going down. They can go down fairly. I may get this wrong, but it's like an hour or two to get down. And essentially, in the sub is like on a rebreather, on the old military rebreathers on the chest, you got the scrubber. They've basically got the same scrubber, which is lime crystals in it. Just when you breathe out, it then scrubs the CO2 out of your expelled breath, and then it occasionally pumps in a bit of oxygen. So you're effectively inside a big rebreather. But yeah, it's like, and from what I could gather, it seems like most of the stuff is mechanical. When you're on the bottom and you want to get to the top, you blow your cylinders, the gas expands in these expansion cylinders and you come back up. But they're like truly amazing. It's like proper James Bond sort of stuff. And that ship is, it's well documented now, the Ocean Explorer, but it has two of these subs, Triton subs, I think they are, and a helicopter, 3 or 4 boats on there, ROV with a 6,000 meter cable on it. So it's like mega well equipped for doing that sort of stuff. Super cool.
What are you finding? Like, what's it like being 1,000 meters down? I take it you're on light systems and it's complete darkness.
Yeah.
Are you on the surface of the ocean floor, or are you sat floating?
I'm verging on the territory of marine biologists and scientists here.
Yeah.
Way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Effectively, the subs have got these subs have got a depth limit of a safe working sort of limit of about 1,000 meters. So they will always try and dive where they've got a hard stop of seabed at that, so that they couldn't, for whatever reason, fall past that, and they usually dive in pairs. But yeah, they can, they're neutrally buoyant, so they can stop at any depth in the water column and carry out work. And the propulsion units on them, small jets, so they can make good way. And out here, certainly you go 500-600 meters off the coast of the Azores and you're down to, the sort of seabed is 3-4 kilometers down. So that's slightly worrying. I mean, it's all mega safe. These guys fly these things all the time, but there's still that nagging thing when you get in it, like the abyss, where you're just like, oh God. Yeah. But yeah, generally it's we're sort of following the advice of the scientists. The idea is to collect as much data. The seabed is hardly mapped at all, like in any detail. So the ship spends a lot of its time at nights, working night shifts. It's mapping and scanning up and down, and eventually these maps will be open source, so that anyone can use them for research purposes.
That's awesome, mate.
Yeah.
2 things. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On becoming a father. And congratulations on the book as well.
Yeah, thanks, dude. It's been a bit of I guess this year with COVID and all the rest of it's just been a sort of bit of a non-starter in lots of respects, and bloody amazing in others. Fatherhood is, like I spent the last 4 or 5 years traveling so much that I was never home. So when lockdown sort of hit, Anna and I were both home at the same time. She's a producer and off doing different things, and that's basically lockdown, baby. So he's actually, mate, I was I don't know how I got away with this, but I was on ship in the Dominican Republic when Atlas was born.
No way. I think after I messaged you, I think you told me actually.
Yeah, so I like Anna. I left Anna sort of a month before giving. Yeah, gutted. We sort of chatted about it, and job was already sort of in the bag contract wise, and it's too much hassle to change it. So we sort of honoured that, and I ended up watching her give birth on WhatsApp call from like somewhere off the coast of Dominican Republic. I had just been diving all morning, came out, sort of had lunch and then sort of went into the science lab and watched Anna give birth on WhatsApp.
Way.
Epic.
Did you get what we? No, it's probably too much information, isn't it? Like, where was the camera?
One of the people in there was just holding the phone and like almost interviewing Anna, chatting to Anna, how she's doing, blah blah blah, her birthing partner, and then like when Atlas was pulled out, sort of like spun the camera around. So I saw him immediately, and then super weird anticlimax. Sort of went back to my 4-man room and just sort of sat there for an hour and just like,
I just had a kid.
Yeah, what just happened? So that was super cool. I got back 17 days later, and so I've just had 2 months at home with him. I tell you, the biggest complaint I had was like I got mega tendonitis from like holding him in that position, and I was saying to my missus about having it, and she was like, "You literally come home 3 weeks after it's born, you start dripping about having tendonitis after the first 2 days of hardly any holding him."
Especially, like your history, like, you shouldn't be complaining about tendonitis.
But it's just been like, it's amazing watching Anna sort of like just take to motherhood and all the rest of it. And it's been, it's not massively been on my radar. I'm 43 now, but I tell you, since the last 2 months at home with him's just been, it's been awesome. Too early to say yet whether it affects what you do at work, and you must have seen it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, because that's the biggest. Obviously, I'm not a father, so I can't really comment on this. But like when I ask people who've got that are in jobs where there's a lot of danger involved, the biggest thing that definitely, well, males and females, both of them say that it changes your perspective on life, and especially there's a lot more thought and consideration going into dangerous activities, whether it's I don't know, motocross or jumping out of planes or whatever that is. There's a lot, there's a definite perspective shift on that. Have you felt anything like that?
I haven't yet, because I've this is the first trip that I've been away since then, since he's been born. But I've worked with enough blokes when they're away that have had a kid, and they've sort of then been, the perspectives change, like whether it's on a tough climb or whatever it is, there's something changes. But yeah, I'm not sure how that affects me in a way. In the military you get kind of used to compartmentalizing, don't you? So I still feel like I would be able to be effective at doing what I'm doing and making the right decisions, not based on that emotional part. But I guess like the thing that has struck home more than anything is just that we, in our line of work, we mitigate as many of the sort of hazards as we can, and the risk of those hazards coming to fruition, right? We sort of like, you wear a helmet, you wear the right kit, you do this, you do that, you take the right weapon, all this stuff, like you're mitigating bad things happening as much as you can. But things like car crashes and road traffic accidents are just like, you just can't really mitigate against that, and it's usually someone else's fault. Like Foxy and I, when we did the Narcos thing, like both of us nearly got decapitated by this, like in a road traffic accident. This like massive metal shutter came flying straight off the top of a vehicle that was about to hit us. He slammed on the brakes. This thing came flying off the top into, there's like 20-foot long metal shot roller, came through the window and like took all the headrests off. It just kind of like stopped there. Foxy and I were like, shit. But that's that's at the end of like punchy 3 months worth of filming, and it's like a road traffic accident.
I was going to say, you were like meeting up with some of the hardest, some of the biggest gangsters in the world, drug dealers, like guns, weapons, like people threatening to kill you, and then all of a sudden you get involved in an RTA and nearly lose your head.
Yeah, so that's it. But I mean, yeah, it's been a mega year with the birth, and yeah, book is out 30th of September. So we're I'm still going through and doing the final edit. Actually, it's been good. Lockdown was good because it gave me the chance to, just like, well, you must know as well, it's hard when you sit down and you've got all these stories and you try and like fit them into a book, and some of the things that you think are cool and you've written up are not.
The opposite as well, right? Because I found like I've got my perception on everything, right? Still now, like I've got my perception in, I don't know, whatever it is, and I might think that something's really Chad or like not as impactful as the person I'm telling the story to or whatever, or another person might just be like, what? You did what? And you thought that was the most least impactful thing that you ever did.
Yeah, I think it's a funny one, and I guess like we live and have lived like quite so no, I wouldn't, it's not mainstream, is it, the way that we sort of have lived our lives up to this point, and I guess we kind of either take things for granted after a while, or you become complacent in that line of work that you're in, so you kind of gloss over some parts and like you dig into the bits that you think people want to hear about, but that's it's not it. How did you find the process of like getting it all on paper and getting out? Because I have to say I'm nervous now that it's getting to the point of getting stuck out there, and I'm thinking it's weird. You open yourself up to, well, it's your life on paper, and anyone can read about it. It's quite daunting.
Yeah. I made sure I forgot, like I didn't concern myself with, like reactions on the book, reviews, all that kind of stuff. It was more just, I was more focused on the book and, making sure, because it's hard, right? Because I've got a way of telling a story, and I don't like over dramatizing everything too much. I like to tell it how I want to tell it. But sometimes to make a story sound better, I don't know, not better than what it is, but to make it sound like a story in a book, you have to put this over dramatization on it. And that was something I was really, really conscious about when I was writing the book, was to make it sound like I'm speaking, that I'm telling that story, as opposed to it being a story in a book. I didn't want it to sound like some fairy tale or I just wanted it to sound like I was sat, opposite someone, just telling them stories of what I did. So I was like, I was really conscious of just making sure that it sounded like my tongue. And then, I was in quite a rush from finishing the book to finishing like the final manuscript document to turning that into a book. That was quite a rush period. And are you having to get it signed off by the MOD?
Yeah, so MOD, and like I didn't actually think about it at the time, but MOD, it's only a short chapter or two actually, is like the military part at the start, and then it goes into all the other expeditions and trips and filming. But so the MOD will have to sort of verify and check and do all the stuff that they do at the start, which I think will take a bit of time. But are you finding
it quite therapeutic almost to get
amazing?
Because like you forget, right? You forget half of the stuff you did, and when you're having to bring a lot of those stories out and retell them and go through them all again, you're like, well, like I remember that bit, or like new memories pop up that you've not thought about for years and years and years.
I tell you what's been interesting is, so I've kept a dictaphone on loads of jobs basically for the last like 8 or 9 years. Just because I was like, at some point, I want to write a book, but like I'm not going to sit down and write a diary every night. Yeah. So like, sat in the jungle somewhere, just whip it out. I'd just do like 3 minutes. Did this today with this person. Fail shit. Mega. Did this. Did that. Whatever it is. And I did it on the row actually when Foxy and I rode across the Atlantic. And it's funny what you, over the period of weeks, days, months and years, that then becomes truth, and it's a very blurred line between what actually happened and how you remember it. And how you remember it's based on like, were you gripped at the time? Were you fearful? Were you in control? and that has a knock-on effect to the parts that you remember and the parts that you forget. So like describing the capsize, for example, like Foxy and I and the team had in the middle of Atlantic at nighttime, in my head, it's one thing. And then when I went back through and listened to the dictaphone things for each day, it was actually more terrifying listening to the dictaphone and how calm and collected it was. And this happened, this person nearly died, did this, did that, blah, 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 blah. But then I had remembered it in a different way that was much more romantic and heroic and all the rest of it. So it's been mega therapeutic to go through the process and just remember those things.
Yeah, that's bizarre how like the memory just remembers something in a certain way. And I found weirdly, right, I'd go to a part that I'd want to remember, and I can remember the story like very, very broadly, but I can't remember the detail.
I'm the same.
Like I've got a flash image of what happened. I'm thinking about a certain image now in my head, or a certain memory now in my head. And I've got that memory in there. It's like logged in the brain, but to try and actually get the detail around what happened, like the exact detail of who was there and what was happening, I find like over years, I don't know, it's almost like my brain's just thrown out this irrelevant information and just kept the I don't know, the picture of the memory.
That's it. I've got, it'll be in there somewhere, but I've just got such a terrible memory for like, I'll meet someone and they'll go, do you remember that time you did this and you said that? And I'm like, absolutely no idea of it. And I don't know whether that's because the sort of frenetic pace of my life, up till now, it's been utterly frenetic. You kind of like, you finish one job, you're on to another one, you're re-rolling your kit, re-rolling your brain, you're not processing anything from that. So you have these snapshots of a thing that happened, rockfall, I don't know, someone firing a weapon at you, or like a wild animal. They have these like snapshots, and then like you say, you kind of, everything else fades to black. There's no other detail.
I'm exactly the same, Aldo. And right, we don't live week to week, day to day. We don't live a normal life. Every day is different. Every week's different. Every month's different. So if you think you go out and you do a 9-to-5 job, you get up at the same time, you have the same thing for breakfast, you get on the same train, you work in the same office, everything's very similar. So your memory looks the same throughout the week. And I find this, right, if you ask me what I did yesterday, it'd take me quite a while to actually remember. In fact, almost not be able to remember. I'd have to look in my calendar or diary to see what I had on yesterday to actually know.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, it's because you're moving forward that much that you've got so much going on ahead of you. You're constantly thinking of, right, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing next week? Like what I wonder, irrelevant. Like yesterday's irrelevant.
It's gone. Yeah. But I wonder if there's like, if lots of us, I know Foxy's like that as well. And I wonder if it's a way of like just pushing on and getting on and getting on. We don't spend a huge amount of time dwelling on what's happened or sort of, or the present. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's certainly like it has an effect on my memory, because there's, I've once did this drive that went from London to Melbourne basically, but I did the London to Singapore stretch, and there was times, it's like 2.5 months on the road driving overland.
Sorry, mate. A drive from London to Melbourne.
Yes. Yeah. And like in a Hilux.
How many miles?
Was this banging out like, nah, it wasn't fun. It was for a Channel 4 like ident thing where there was a gold rascal. It's called Hell of a Tour, but there's like a rascal van, the tiny little.
The most horrible van that you could ever imagine. There's really small.
Yeah, so there's one of them with this like camper van conversion on it that these 4 people were sort of traveling down to Melbourne in that wagon, and I was running the expedition, basically the safety support from a Hilux. So I was driving the Hilux every day, and it was me, a producer, director, and a camera guy in the Hilux, and we were basically like, it took I think 2.5 months to get down through all the stands and down into Singapore, basically. But I remember getting in places like Bishkek or whatever, and you sort of like open the curtains at night, and like you're just like, where am I? And like I got to the point where I was just like, I wasn't looking at any of, like the stuff you have in the hotel desk that tells you where it is. And I just opened the window, where it's in China or I don't know, Kyrgyzstan or whatever. You just stand and look out the window and look at everything and just try and work out where you are, what city in China you're in. And like sometimes I genuinely stand there for minutes, no idea where I was.
That's crazy. Because you don't have, I don't know, you don't have, like now you can probably just turn your phone on, right? And just like figure out where you are, or where's like
mad.
You've been literally like all over the world. Literally all over the world. Is there anywhere that you've not been, or anything that you've not done that you'd want to?
Yeah, look, since I've been a kid, mate, and you'll laugh at this. Since I've been a kid, I wanted to climb Everest just because. Yeah, Preston. I wanted, since a kid, I've wanted to do to climb Everest, and having and it's a funny one because it doesn't hold the same as it did when I was a kid, that I wanted to do it for probably different reasons, more macho bravado reasons when I was younger, than it is now. But the high mountains of the Himalayas, I'd love to do more in. But I'd love to go to Patagonia. Never been. That's like up on the list. Antarctica up on the list, and Alaska, I reckon. But it's I'd love to do it for myself as opposed to sort of filming or that sort of thing. So, But you do.
I'm one of those people. It's like I don't have places specifically that I want to go and tick off boxes, but I have things that I want to do in those places. Like I'd love to go on a solid, week or 2 weeks heli skiing trip in Alaska.
Oh, mate, that's a dream, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be gold standard for me. That's a box ticker. I'd love to go to the poles, but again, like the logistics that it takes to get there, and I think I might get bored.
I know. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the same. What I find amazing is like with travel, we have been living in this golden age. We're probably only the second generation of people that can say that they've traveled the world extensively. Back in the day in the 1600s, when you were a privateer on board a ship, you would do 1 or 2 voyages in your life that you might get down the coast of Africa or across to South America, wherever. But like, we can literally go from the North Pole to Everest, South Pole, far Southeast Asia, Australia. You can do it in a year.
Yeah. It was crazy how easy you could travel, right?
Yeah. I remember sitting on the beach with Anna it would have been just 2 years ago, and we were in Crete, a place called Lutro in Crete, and there's loads of old World War II sort of relics down there, and I think the Germans occupied Crete down that neck of the woods. And I was saying to Anna, like, we're in golden days, just being able to jump in a plane, head down there, and it was bizarre because it was probably about a year just before the whole sort of lockdown sort of thing happened, and you could literally travel unchecked, and have been able to travel unchecked for years. But I think we're lucky in that to have seen with our own eyeballs the desert, the jungle, the high mountains. I think most people over the years would have seen one of these places, or it would have been their life's visit. But what's your favorite environment for working in? Or
do you know what? I tend not to keep favorites. I have
good.
I have things that I like about certain environments that you don't get in other environments, right? For example, I enjoy working in them all. Like the Arctic's obviously my bag. I've got the most experience in the Arctic or snow or mountain conditions. I enjoyed the desert, and I enjoyed the jungle. I enjoy like the vastness of the jungle and the fact that you will not see anyone for a lot of time, and you pretty much have to be self-sufficient, and swimming in rivers at the end of the day before you get in your hammock feels good, right?
Yeah, love it. I reckon, like, if you can, I've always thought if you can work in the jungle, then you can pretty much work anywhere. You know, it's like it's that admin, isn't it, of keeping all your shit together and keeping everything that needs to be dry, and, you know, the stuff that's wet is wet, and, you know, then just your body being eaten away to bits or rotted to bits as you go. And if I always feel like, you know, if you can operate or work in that environment, then it's all transferable everywhere else.
Yeah, it's hard trying to like relate to people how hard the jungle is to operate in. And I remember like finishing selection in the jungle, and you like that, literally you finish, you come back into camp, and you know you've been wearing these pants for literally 4 weeks in the jungle, sweating in them. And obviously, like you said there, you've got a set of wet and a set of dry pants. So the dry pants you get into in the evening, you literally wear whilst you're sleeping, and that's it. And the wet pants you wear are your working pants. You wear them all throughout the day. You do everything in them, sweat, toilets, the lot. And you take these like crispy like things off that are just one color. And I just remember looking at my legs, and I don't think you could have got my thumb on my leg and have a bare patch of skin that wasn't covered in a bite or a scratch or a cut or I don't know. They're mainly bites, right? Just your legs covered in these red blotches and worms and all kind of stuff.
Actually, I don't want to go back to the jungle. I'm fine without it. That just reminded me.
But you're like literally sleeping on the floor for 7 days at the end of the exercise, like every night. You weren't even in a hammock. I remember waking up one night, Aldo, and we were sleeping on the floor, and I woke up, and I was feeling my lip, and I was like, hell, I was like, I must have been bit by something, because it felt like my lip had swollen. And I started feeling it, and it was a leech, and it had literally stuck to the top of my lip and just sat there growing and growing and growing. And I literally had this pouty duck lip that was a leech.
Yeah, they're actually that's the one thing that people worry most about is leeches, and it's usually the least offensive of all the things that you can have. Yeah.
Have you had any bad experiences in any of the environments you've been in?
With the old, I'm trying to think of, like, I guess it's my job to always try and make it safe. Like the hardest part when you have a film crew, and like that's the interesting thing is looking after film crews in these environments. And when I sort of started doing this work, I was like, I've been in the Marines, like a mega. I'm obviously
so calm
mega
under pressure.
I'm obviously mega. Like, I've been in the Marines and I've done this, and then I get to work with, like, my first film crew was in inside a volcano, and I just, like, when I started working with them, and I was just like, I literally have done nothing with my life. And you know what it's like from filming. You know, these guys are filming everything that we're doing, running backwards. You know, the producers, the directors, like they're all there. And actually, you know, I was kind of like, ended up being humbled in a way. You know, I'm not a mega ego dude anyway. Sort of, you know, I was saying that I thought I was mega, but like inside, I thought, well, I've done everything, you know. And then you go there, and these guys are just like operating in the jungle, no military experience, but they're doing all the same shit that we would have done, you know, like wet and dry routine. And so it's quite good, you know, being sort of schooled in that way, that actually we're not always all that.
The man behind the camera doesn't get enough credit, does he?
He is. Yeah, I mean,
you pick up the weight of one of those cameras, and he is, like you said, right? He's literally doing everything that you're doing and we're doing at the same time. Yet he's carrying that big lump, and it's probably going to be cold, right? He's not wearing gloves because he's having to move stuff on the camera, so his fingers are numb. It's usually hammering it down with rain. Like, they're solid guys. I know the ones that I've worked with in the past.
And they've, I mean, that's the thing with all of them. You know, they're doing an incredibly technical job and creative. So they're not just like point and shoot, you know, that all the guys that I've worked with, you know, in these environments, and I'm doing a 10-hour slog through the jungle, you know, to get to somewhere with cave paintings, you know, and it's taken us 3 weeks to get there. I'm hanging out. The camera guy's hanging out as well, but he's still got a job to do. I just need to hang out my arse on camera and tell you how sort of hard it is. But he's actually got to like keep his camera dry, change lenses, do all that stuff. And you know, when he can't do it, he's not allowed to. Right? Not allowed to. And it's the same like when you watch them, you know, and diving stuff, and you know all the stuff that we've just will be doing on this, and you know the guys are in the water diving with big predators, and not that that's an issue, you know, that's their normal bag, but it was good in a way when I switched into this line of work. I actually sort of was humbled by how hard working these guys are, and that's why actually it's you know, a lot of people say there's no sort of similarities between television work and the military, but I think it's, you know, the transferable stuff that you take from the military into television. You know, you're working in small groups, often under tight deadlines, extreme conditions, remote places, and everyone's pushing to get the job done. And so I find it's pretty similar, but you find
there's a big similarity in that sense, but you also find because of that there's similarities in other senses, like sense of humor, like you know the whole taking the piss kind of like the sense of humor is very similar in the TV world, I find.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of has to be, you know, the expeditions that Steve Backshaw and I did, his expedition series, you know, we did 10 world first expeditions back to back in 11 months, you know, so it was like 4 weeks in Mexico, back for a few days, out to Greenland for a month, back for a few days, out to Oman for 3 weeks, you know, so we were just like crunching through these expeditions. And you know, the Steve, camera guys, the producers, directors, everyone that's on the ground is just getting, you know, run into the ground, and it's, you know, it's hard work, and they've got to continually think about the story and where this fits in and what they need to get. And you know, when I'm switching my light out in my hammock at night, you know, you can still see that they've got the lights on and they're charging batteries and downloading data. And so yeah, it's pretty epic. But I mean, yeah, they, you know, all the crazy stuff that we've done, you know, that we could talk about in TV terms, you know, there's a crew that's always there. You know, you've always got that camera guy and the sound guy that are there filming it in the same rockfall area as you, or in the volcano or wherever it is. You know, it's pretty mad stuff.
Mate, one thing I want to talk about, because I'm super interested in it, was the Atlantic row.
Yeah. That is, yeah. It's
is that right? Would you do it again?
Yeah.
Would you?
I don't. You know, like
how long did it take? Like when was it? Right, it's like 4.
We finished 16. I'm counting on my hand. 5 years. Yeah, 5 years ago we finished it.
How long did it take for you to turn around and say that you'd do it again?
Yeah, probably 5 years. Do you know what, mate? Like with the row, it's, you know, right. So it's 5 of us. We rowed from, you know, Foxy was on board, Team Essence, and we rowed from mainland Europe to mainland South America, and we're the first team to sort of do it. Everything, you know, there was no one specific part of it that was very, very hard. You know, I firmly believe that anyone can do it. It's just whether people would want to do it and then how long they would last doing it. But it's like, you know, the rowing, you row for 2 hours on and then 2 hours off, and then that's it. You know, for us, that was 50 days. You know, there's no real sort of rest there. It's a feat of endurance and just like parking your brain. And if you're anything like me and your brain's like a million miles an hour, it was A, difficult, and B, good to just concentrate on like what you were doing right there. I mean, it was like having your mindfulness arse handed to you for the first time. You know, you're sort of
because there's nothing else around, right? You are literally like there's zero distraction. It's not like you can pick up your phone or you can watch a movie. It is literally 2 hours of rowing, and then I guess that 2 hours that you spent off, you're resting, right? Eating, administrating yourself.
That's my phone just went there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. In a 24-hour cycle, you're 2 hours on, 2 hours off, but you really only sleep in the nighttime set of 2 hours.
Yeah.
So in a 24-hour sort of shift or stint, you'll probably have 4 hours where you would probably sleep because it's sort of nighttime. And of that 4 hours, you know, you got to get into your cabin, you got to get dry, you got to sort your kit out, you got to do your admin, clean yourself, because the salt absolutely obliterates like any parts of your skin that are touching. So you got to do like 20 minutes, half an hour of admin when you finish your shift. And then depending on where you are in the Atlantic, you know, if it's cold, you got to put all your kit back on when you come back out, tether on to. So really that 2 hours off is not 2 hours off. And so by the time you get into a routine of it, you're still, you know, your sort of admin is spread out through the day, and you sort of like take bits here and there, you know, bits of rest. But generally, can you hear that? Is my phone ringing? No, that's all right. Generally, it's just hard. It's hard work, but like, let's say the row, you know, you sit in the thing and all you got to do is that. Rarely
is that hard? Is that hard physically? Because a row, like the only rowing I've done is on a rowing machine, and that's hard physically.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine doing that for 2 hours.
I would say the erg is harder than rowing on the boat, because, like, maybe I'm talking absolute shit here, but when I did the row, I had like 45 minutes rowing experience in the rowing boat. That was it.
No way.
I had such a busy schedule. I was in Venezuela for 5 weeks, and I was doing that drive. I just had loads of stuff on, and but when you sit down and you row, like two of you row or one of you row, you know, rarely does it ever happen that both your rows go in at the same time and you get a perfect stroke, and it's all about position, and it's literally like survival. You know, you're getting smashed around by swell, wind blown waves, tide, whatever it is, and you're kind of just like, you kind of just are generally going in the right direction, but slowly. Sometimes you get one oar in, sometimes you get two in. And if you do hit a super flat bit of water that you can actually get a good rhythm up or a good stroke in, sometimes it's like treacle, and it's much worse than, you know, if you've got one or two in. But yeah, it was an exercise in sort of just like grafting and not looking too far into the future. You know, it took us seven and a bit weeks or something. And when I say we rowed across Atlantic, like when you leave Lagos in Portugal and you end up in Venezuela, and we passed like Canary Isles and Cape Verde, you don't see them. It's not like you stop in and jump out and shake out and spend the night. Like when you leave Portugal, you don't see land again until you're basically in Venezuela, which is, you know, that I love that feeling of being out in the open ocean, and you're pretty small, you know, you're very small in that boat. But yeah, I still would quite like to, I don't know if I'd like to do it, but, you know, there's a part of my brain that's like, could I do it solo?
Really solo?
Would I want to do it solo? That's the other thing, you know.
Yeah. Do you find
it's all right doing these things where you've
find the older you get, do you find the older you get and the less tolerant you are to this kind of stuff, or the more picky you are?
Yeah, I think it's that, and, you know, stage of life you get to, you kind of also look at, you know, you kind of look at what the risk reward, and, you know, when you're potentially younger and less less of that responsibilities, you know, you take more risk, more chance, whereas now, you know, 7-8 weeks is a long time to be away. If I suppose it's about risk reward, isn't it? At the end of the day, are you thinking about would you do it?
Like if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, I'd have 100% said yes. I think now, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I've got 50 days time to take myself out rowing the Atlantic, and two, I don't know. I don't know if, like you said, right, the risk versus reward. I think when I was younger, I'd throw myself into anything because I just enjoyed the experience of whatever it was I was doing, whether it was adventure or military or whatever it was, right? I enjoyed that experience, and I still enjoy experiences. But I don't know. I'm probably am I right to say I'm getting soft?
I don't think
your experiences change, and for me, I'm finding that I get a lot more energy from, I don't know, like doing different things. And like I even found writing a book was an adventure or an experience that I enjoyed. And all the things that I've done since leaving the military, I'm now finding that I get just as much fun and enjoyment from them than I did from doing the expeditions on Everest. So I'm kind of like I'm racing cars now, and I'm getting such a buzz from that. I'm like, so I've got all these races. Could I now take the time out to go and climb Everest at K2? And I'm like, well, I'll miss a couple of races, and that's fun.
Yeah.
So
I think the racing, we'll chat about that in a minute, sounds amazing, but I think like for me, certainly at 43, I need to be much more picky. Like you don't bounce back from making the wrong decisions at 43 as you did when you're 23, right? So taking 2 months out to do something has to have specific points that are worthwhile doing. 5 years ago, I was in a very different place, and I think everyone on that boat was sort of running away from something. And it turns out when you're on a boat that small, the demons come with you. Like you're not getting away from it.
It's like the worst place ever.
Yeah,
to be running away from. Like no access to anyone else. Like
But I think it has to be much more, and like you say, like the racing, that must be amazing, and you get the same buzz. It's quicker, but you're also like progressing. You're sort of, it's like I always liken it to when I was in the military. I only did 10 years, but that time you're always like, we've got this on, and then that's to prepare you for that, and then we do that, and then you're ready. And you're chasing that thing. And I think that's like with the racing, that surely must be what it's like, where you're sort of in the moment, you've got like race, you're learning. Love that, like learning a new skill thing.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's probably where I was getting to with the experiences. Like I get such a massive kick from seeing that I'm progressing in something, and whether it's racing cars, whether it's with surfing, you can see that progression, and you can see the result of how much time and energy that you're putting into it. You can see that result physically, and you get the feeling back from that result too, because you might perform something you've never performed on a wave, or do a turn you've never turned. It might be like that's the best feeling in the world, right? Same with racing. It's when you're physically seeing, right, your time's getting lower and lower and lower. That's an instant feedback for me to go, yeah, I'm getting better at this.
But I think that's the point there, is that you've channeled all of your years of experience and life into that one thing. Let's say it's racing or surfing. Whereas, for me, for many years, I was a jack of all trades. I could climb fairly decent. I could paddle all right. I could skydive all right. I could dive but I never focused my attention, everything pinpoint onto one thing. And it's amazing that when you do start to do that, when you find a passion and then you start to direct everything to it, it's then amazing how quickly you become successful at it. And I just find that, it's amazing, but it's also,
I'm like you though, Aldo. I'm like you. I need that variety, because I'd get I'd get bored just doing one thing over and over again.
Yeah, but that's a good thing, is like having these. I guess over the years I've sort of fine-tuned mine down into probably a few things that I like doing, where it's climbing, diving, and the expedition. So I kind of I've become better at those things, and a lot of the other things have sort of just flown by the wayside. But it's funny, like you sort of. I was going to say, you kind of like for me, I associate as being a climber, right? Because that's what I've always done since I was a kid. I wear all the climbing gear and the shoes, and I'm like, when was the last time I actually climbed something? It's been like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but then you look at people that are just literally living and breathing climbing, and they're sending some routes that I don't know, I wouldn't have even looked at when I was climbing.
Yeah, they're doing it in jeans. I was away with Leo Holding last year, at the end of last year, and just we did this route in Oman, and it's just amazing watching someone that's like, they're in a state of flow. You know, when you find something that you like and you're passionate about, and you watch them, they're just in a state of flow, which is amazing. And that comes, I guess, through finding that thing and then dedication. No shortcuts, really.
Nah. Have you? Is there anything out there like hobby wise or hobbies probably not the right word, learning a new skill or a new sport or whatever that is that you've never done that you'd want to do?
I just started last year doing paramotoring.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I always wanted, like, personal flight is amazing, and it's relatively cheap compared to any other version of sort of personal flight. And I never sort of had the time, money, or sort of interest really in learning how to paraglide. But then the advent of like Parajet and their kit and the paramotors, it can be quite easy. 10 days I was learning to fly, and it was always a bit that I enjoyed most at the end of a skydive, mainly because I was shitting myself. But like once you get under canopy and you're like, right, it's fine, right, now I can enjoy it. So that paramotoring kind of opened up this new. I haven't done loads of it, but it's something I want to get more into doing, like point to point or expedition stuff, where you just have like a little bivvy bag and you choose a route and just bosh it out. But that's up there. And I don't know whether everything needs to go on hold for a bit with now that Atlas has arrived. I might need to wind my neck in on.
You just like lifting loads of stuff off me, like
yeah. Being a father, I need to. I need to.
But going back to that though, you've got. It's again, I'm not a father, right? But it's finding that fine balance of. You don't want to quit it all because you'll not be the guy that you were before you had that kid, and you want that kid to see that guy, because they're obviously looking at you and they're absorbing everything that you do. And if you were to just stop everything that that made Aldo Kane who Aldo Kane is today, then
it's so true.
You turn into a couch potato or whatever, and it's like you don't want your kid to see that. You want your kid to be inspired by what you're doing, right? Go out and if it's not the same as what you're doing, do whatever he's passionate about.
It's so true. We some people that would look on the outside think, I wasn't there for the birth, but I want to be there for the life of him, not just the birth.
But what
of
a
one
story
day.
to tell, Atlas, right?
Yeah.
Where were you on the birth of me?
Bailed out, but I think that's that's the point, and there's a lot to be said for working away for a chunk of time and then having a chunk of time off, because when I'm home for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, I'm home and I'm present. That's what I'm doing. And if there's a lot of people who can probably relate to this, that have a 9-to-5 job, they get home at night and their kids in bed when it comes to the weekend and knackered, and they don't do the cool things that they might have wanted to do with the kids just because life is hectic and busy. So and I guess it's the same in relationships. I've learned over the years that trying to manipulate myself and my life to please other people just ultimately ends up in a disaster for me. It ends up in like, you're not your best version of yourself. I'm not Aldo Kane if I'm not being true to what excites me and my passion. And when I'm in full flow and passion with adventure and exploring and all that sort of stuff, then that's the best version of me. And that's, you know, when I come home, that's who I am. So I think it'll be a juggling sort of, I guess it'll be a juggle to try and work out how to make it work, but it certainly won't be stopping me in my tracks, because that's who I am.
Yeah, no, Doc, mate, I resonate with you totally. It's the same on my side. Like, you know, we've got the military probably to thank for that, right? For kickstarting us into that kind of life, because, you know, you're constantly away, and then you come back and you've got, whether it's a weekend, whether it's a week's leave or 2 weeks leave to spend with, whether it's a girlfriend or whoever, right? And I prefer that. Like, I prefer that kind of life, because, you know, even now you're going off doing all the stuff that you love doing, that give you energy and make you happy and make you who you are today. And then you could, like what you said, right? You come back and you've had that separation as well, right? So that guy who's doing a 9 to 5 job, he's just looking at his kid every night, and it's like, you know, he's dropping poos and he's changing nappies and all that kind of stuff. I guess there's opportunity there to build up some sort of, like, you know, resentment's probably a too strong a word, but complacency of, you just expect to see your kid or your girlfriend or your wife or your husband every time that you come back from work, whereas you have that separation. It's like, I bet now you're missing him so much that you just can't wait to get back and see. I think see him and Anna.
Yeah, there's that, and I guess there's, like, similar to that, there's also taking things for granted that, you know, and it doesn't suit everyone, right? This is my life and the way that it suits me. But, you know, coming back from somewhere where you can't turn on the tap and get water, or you have to filter it because if you drank it, you'd probably get very sick, or, you know, you don't have to have a fire every night to keep warm, or, you know, the basics of survival that we take for granted, food, water, shelter. I love coming back from a trip and, like, coming home and just, like, turning the tap on, you know, and that it's the same thing, right, with your relationships and the things that you take for granted. So with my line of work, and you'll be able to relate to it, is that you're almost always in a honeymoon period.
Which,
you know, and it can last years. It just keeps everything fresh and moving and exciting. And if you're away getting new experiences and learning, that should be bolstering your relationships with other people and other things, if that makes sense. God, that went deep.
Mate, I could chat to you for hours, Aldo, but I'm conscious that we've both got lives to live external from this podcast. So,
Thank you very much, dude, for having me on, mate. It's been mega catching up with you, actually, mate. We need to catch up for a beer when I get back.
Because I was actually thinking the last time I saw you was it was an event in London.
Was it Nimsy's thing?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, it was Nimsy's.
That was easy a year and a half ago. So when you're back, let's get out for a beer in London, definitely.
Get beers, mate. Thank you so much, dude. That was wicked.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. And mate, obviously, when's your book out? September, Life on the Edge.
Yeah, so, September 30th. Yeah, so yeah, Lessons from the Edge. Yeah, September 30th.
Lessons from the Edge. Aldo Kane. Pleasure, mate. Appreciate it.
Boom. Cheers, dude. Thank you.
Cheers, Aldo, mate. Appreciate that, buddy.
Thanks to our sponsors, Harley-Davidson, who have helped make this latest adventure possible. Check them out at harley/davidson.com or give @Harley_UKI a follow on Twitter. Thank you.